She walked across the silent ground of her ruined planet, carrying a small bundle close to her chest. Her child slept inside that bundle, wrapped in old fabric, the only soft thing left from their past life. The alien mother moved carefully, always looking over her shoulder, always listening to the empty wind. This world had once been alive, full of voices, laughter, and green fields. But now it was only dust, ruins, and fear. She was a mother, but she was also a survivor. Her kind had been hunted, scattered, and broken by enemies who came from the sky. Many years ago, she had a partner, someone who promised to protect their little family. But he never returned from the last battle, and now she carried the weight of raising her child alone. Every morning she searched for food, walking far into dangerous lands. Sometimes she found old cans left behind in broken houses, sometimes only roots buried in dry soil. She would crush them, mix them with water, and pretend it was a meal. Her child never complained, but his small hungry eyes told the truth. Night was the hardest. She sat inside the remains of a broken shelter, listening to distant growls of wild creatures. She wrapped her arms around her child, whispering promises she was not sure she could keep. The stars above shone bright, endless, uncaring, and she wondered if anyone out there even knew she existed. She told herself that no one was coming, that no one cared. It was better to believe that than to hope, because hope could break her heart again. But deep inside, she still remembered the stories. Her people once told of strange beings from far away, creatures with short lives but powerful hearts. They called them humans. Some said humans were dangerous, greedy, always fighting. Others said humans were different, that they carried a light inside them, a light that changed everything they touched. The alien mother did not know what to believe. All she knew was that she was alone, and loneliness was heavier than hunger, heavier than fear. Her child gave her reason to keep going. When he smiled, even with thin cheeks and tired eyes, she felt her spirit rise for a moment. When he cried, she felt her heart break again and again. She promised him in the quiet of the night that she would never stop fighting for him. But she also knew one truth, a truth she could not escape. Alone. She could not protect him forever. One evening the sky changed. She stood outside their shelter, holding her child and looking up. The clouds turned red with fire, and a streak of light tore across the heavens. It was not a star, not a falling rock. It was something else. Her heart raced, fear and curiosity rising together. The streak broke the sky open with thunder, and then it vanished behind the faraway hills. The ground shook faintly, and a distant echo rolled through the valley. She froze, clutching her child tightly. Her mind whispered danger, but her heart whispered something she had not felt in years. It whispered hope. She shook her head. Refusing to believe it, she told herself it was nothing, maybe just another weapon from the enemies. Still, she could not stop staring at the horizon where the fire had fallen. That night she could not sleep. She lay awake, staring at the ceiling of the broken shelter. Her child's small breaths filled the silence. Her heart beat too fast, her hands trembled. Something inside her told her that the world was about to change. But change could be deadly. Change could destroy what little she still had. And yet part of her wished it was true, wished that someone had come. The alien mother closed her eyes, but the image of the fire in the sky did not leave her mind. She tried to tell herself that she was strong enough to keep going alone, but she knew the truth. Her strength was breaking, her body was tired, her spirit was thin as glass. She could not carry this burden forever, and maybe, just maybe, that light from the sky was not a weapon, not an enemy, but something else, something she needed. Something her child needed far away. Smoke still rose from the crash site, black against the stars. She whispered softly to herself, her voice almost a prayer. Please let it not be another nightmare. Her child stirred, and she kissed his forehead. She held him close, and though fear sat heavy in her chest, hope returned like a small flame, a flame she thought was gone forever. The lonely alien mother did not yet know, but her life was about to change. And the one who would change it was not from her world, but from a distant planet called Earth. The morning after the fire in the sky, the alien mother woke to silence. Her child still slept in her arms, his breathing soft and steady, but her own eyes stayed wide open, haunted by the memory of that burning streak. She tried to convince herself it was nothing, just a falling rock, just another danger she could ignore. Yet her heart refused to rest. Something had fallen from the stars, and it called to her. She left her shelter when the sun was low, Carrying her child on her back, she walked carefully, her steps quiet on the broken ground. The path to the crash was long and filled with shadows, but she kept going. Each step echoed her fear. What if it was an enemy ship? What if death waited there? Still, her legs did not stop, because curiosity pulled her stronger than fear. Smoke rose in the distance. Black against the pale sky, the air smelled sharp. Like metal and burning fire, she moved closer. Crouching low among the rocks, then she saw it. A giant object half buried in the earth, torn and broken. It was not like the ships of her enemies. Not like anything she had seen before. Its silver body was cracked. Wires hanging out like veins, sparks flashing weakly. The ground around it was blackened, scorched by its violent fall. The alien mother's breath caught in her throat. Her child stirred and whispered softly, as if he too felt the weight of this moment. She hid behind a broken wall and watched, waiting for a while. Nothing happened. Then the ship hissed. A door creaked open, and a figure moved inside the smoke. She froze, her heart hammering in her chest. The figure stumbled forward, tall, thin compared to her kind. Its skin was pale, its face unlike any she had ever seen. It wore strange clothing torn from the crash, metal pieces clinging to its body. The creature looked weak, coughing as it pressed a hand against its side. It was bleeding, moving slow, struggling to breathe. Her mind screamed danger. Her people had told stories of humans, but she never believed them. Now one stood before her, alive and real. Was he a threat, a savior, or simply another lost soul? She gripped her child close, torn between running and watching. The human staggered, falling to his knees in the dust. He pressed his hand to the ground, as if asking the planet itself to hold him. Then he looked up, his eyes searching the empty ruins around him. Those eyes caught her from afar. For a moment, time stopped. His gaze was tired, filled with pain, but also with something else. Something she had not seen in years. Gentleness. She gasped and pulled back behind the wall. Her heart raced, her breath shallow. She told herself not to trust, not to believe, but when she peeked again, she saw the human collapse, falling onto the dirt. He lay still, his chest rising only faintly, his life flickering like a small candle. Her child squirmed on her back. Whispering in their soft alien tongue, he pointed toward the human, eyes wide not with fear but with wonder. The alien mother shook her head, trying to silence him, but the child slipped from her arms, small feet carrying him toward the fallen figure. Her voice caught in her throat as she reached for him, but it was too late. The boy stood before the human, holding out a small flask of water. The human lifted his head weakly, surprised. He looked at the child, then at the water. His lips parted, and in a rough, broken voice he spoke, "Thank you." The alien mother stepped forward, unable to hold back anymore. Her fear and anger boiled together. She rushed to her child, standing between him and the stranger. Her eyes narrowed, her body ready to fight if needed. The human raised his hands slowly. Palms open, he did not attack, he did not move closer. He only looked at her with those tired, gentle eyes, eyes that spoke without words, saying he meant no harm. For a long moment the world was silent. Only the crackle of the broken ship and the whisper of the wind surrounded them. The alien mother stared at him, searching for lies, but all she found was weakness and honesty. This was not an enemy soldier, not a hunter of her people. This was a man broken by the stars, lost and alone just like her. Still, she did not lower her guard. She pulled her child close, her heart torn in two. One voice inside her screamed to run, to leave him behind. Another voice whispered that maybe, just maybe, fate had sent him for a reason. The human coughed, his body shaking. He touched his chest and then pointed toward the sky. His hand trembled, and he whispered one word again and again, "Home. Home." The alien mother did not understand his language, but she understood the sound in his voice. It was the sound of loss, of longing, of someone far from everything he loved. Her heart ached, because it was the same sound she carried inside herself. The sun dipped lower, shadows stretching across the land. She stood there, caught between fear and compassion. She knew one thing for certain: this meeting was no accident. The fire in the sky had brought her something that could destroy her or save her. The lonely alien mother had found a human, and nothing would ever be the same again. The alien mother stood frozen, her child pressed tightly against her side. The human lay on the ground, his body weak, his breath shallow. He had taken the water her child offered, his lips moving slowly around the word "thank you." She did not understand his language, but she felt the meaning in his voice. It was not a word of power, not a word of threat, it was a word of kindness. And that frightened her more than weapons. For years she had believed kindness was gone from the universe. Her people had been hunted, scattered like dust. She had learned to trust no one, to fight for every scrap of food, to hide from every sound. But now here was this fragile creature, a man from another world offering no harm. Instead of raising weapons, he raised open hands. Instead of shouting, he whispered. Her heart trembled, unsure whether to shield itself or to open. The child stepped closer again, unafraid. His small fingers reached for the human's strange hand. The alien mother gasped and pulled him back. Her eyes burned with warning. But her child only looked at her with innocence. He did not see an enemy. He only saw someone who needed help. The human lowered his hand slowly, respecting her fear, but his eyes stayed soft, gentle, steady. She studied him carefully. His clothing was torn. Strange symbols marked the fabric. A small metal object hung from his chest, cracked but glowing faintly. His face was pale, his eyes sunken with exhaustion. And yet, when he looked at her child, a faint smile formed on his lips. It was not the smile of a conqueror. It was the smile of someone grateful to still be alive. The alien mother tightened her grip on her child and took a cautious step forward. Her voice was low, sharp, a warning in her own tongue. The human tilted his head, clearly not understanding. He placed his hand gently against his chest and spoke again. "Human," he said, tapping his chest once more. "Human." She blinked, confusion mixing with curiosity. He was naming himself, offering her his identity. It was the simplest gesture of trust. Her child giggled softly, repeating the sound in his alien accent. "Human," he tried, stumbling on the strange word. The human chuckled weakly, nodding, encouraging him. The alien mother's lips tightened, but she could not hide the warmth in her chest. Her child's laughter was rare, like sunlight breaking through endless clouds, and this stranger had brought it back. Even for a moment, still danger pressed on her mind. She looked at the broken ship smoking behind him. If raiders saw the fire, they would come. If enemies discovered a human here, they would destroy them all. Her instincts told her to run, to take her child far away before it was too late. But when she looked at the human again, lying weak on the ground, her steps froze. He was helpless, alone, a soul far from home. Abandoning him felt like abandoning a part of herself. The human tried to rise, his legs shaking, but he fell again. Her child reached for him, but she held the boy back. The man pressed his hand into the dirt. Trying again, pain twisted his face. Sweat fell across his brow. But he refused to stop, refused to surrender. The alien mother's eyes widened. She saw in him the same stubbornness she carried inside herself. The will to fight even when all hope was gone. Her heart cracked open just a little. She stepped forward and knelt near him. Though still ready to pull away at the first sign of danger, the human looked up at her, his lips trembling. His chest rising heavily, he lifted his hand slowly. Not in attack, but in request. For a breathless moment she hesitated. Her child's wide eyes stared at her, waiting. Then she extended her hand. Cautious, shaking, their fingers touched. Alien and human, rough and trembling. And in that touch, something unspoken passed between them. It was not words, not language, but feeling, pain, loneliness, exhaustion, yes, all of that, but also trust, courage, and the faintest spark of hope. The alien mother felt tears rise to her eyes. For the first time in years, she was not alone, and neither was he. The human smiled faintly, his strength fading. He squeezed her hand lightly before letting go. She pulled back, her heart racing, unsure what she had just done. She had crossed a line she thought she would never cross again. She had let another being touch her heart. The child clapped his hands with joy, repeating again, "Human," he said. Pointing at the stranger, the human chuckled softly, whispering a word she could not understand. But she knew its meaning. It was the word for family, for connection, for something lost now found. The sun dipped low, painting the ruins in red light. The alien mother stood tall, looking at the human, then at her child. She knew their lives had just shifted. The future was no longer just survival, no longer just hiding. Now it was tangled with this strange being from the stars. Whether it was blessing or curse, she could not yet say. But deep inside, she felt something stronger than fear. She felt the first thread of trust forming. The first connection between two worlds that were never meant to meet. And that connection was only the beginning. The alien mother could not sleep that night. The human rested inside the broken shell of his ship. His body weak, his breathing uneven. Her child curled beside her, whispering the new word again and again, human, like it was a secret treasure. But the mother's heart was not calm. She felt the air change. Heavy with warning, something was coming. She could sense it. From the highest ridge of the valley, a thin column of smoke rose into the air. Not from the human's crash, no, this smoke was different. Darker, older. It was a signal. And signals always meant danger. Raiders wandered these lands. Scavengers who killed the weak and stole what they could. If they had seen the fire in the sky, if they followed the trail of smoke, then soon they would be here. And if they found the human, they would not only kill him but also her and her child. She sat in silence, sharpening a broken blade with a stone. Her hands moved steady, but her thoughts ran wild. Why had she not left already? Why had she let her child get close to the human? It would have been safer to run, safer to leave him behind. But every time she thought of abandoning him, she remembered his eyes, tired but gentle, filled with the same pain she carried, and she could not force herself to walk away. The human stirred, coughing weakly. He tried to stand, his hands trembling as he pushed against the wall of the wreck. She rushed to steady him, though she kept her distance. He muttered words she did not understand, pointing toward the sky and then toward the horizon. She guessed his meaning. He wanted to fix his ship, to go back home. But the wreck was too broken and his body too weak even if he survived. He was trapped here with them, her child, full of innocence, climbed onto the human's knee. The human smiled faintly, showing the boy a small tool from his pocket. It blinked with light, tiny and strange. The child laughed, clapping his hands, amazed by the glow for a moment. Warmth filled the air, but the mother's ears caught something else. A sound far away, the distant hum of engines, the sharp cry of metal wings. Raiders coming fast, her blood ran cold. She grabbed her child, pressing him against her chest. Her eyes darted to the human, who now looked up. Sensing danger too, though weak, he reached for the small bag near his ship, pulling out a weapon unlike any she had seen. It was old, cracked, but when he pressed a button, a faint blue light glowed along its edge. He looked at her, his expression hard now. No longer gentle, he was ready to fight, even if his body failed him. The alien mother's instinct screamed to run, but her heart knew running would not save them. Not this time. If raiders found the human's wreck, they would search the whole valley. No hiding place would be safe, no cave deep enough. The only chance was to fight, to stand side by side. Her hand tightened around her blade, her breath slow and steady. She hated this choice, but she had made harder ones before. The ground began to tremble with the roar of engines. Shadows appeared in the distance, fast-moving shapes on hovering crafts. Their laughter carried across the valley, cruel and sharp. Her child buried his face against her shoulder, shaking. She kissed his head gently, whispering a promise she was not sure she could keep, that he would be safe, that she would protect him no matter what. The human coughed, steadying himself on the wreck. He looked at her with fierce determination. He pointed to himself, then to her, then to the child. His meaning was clear. We fight together or we die alone. She felt her heart twist. She had fought alone for so long, never trusting anyone, never leaning on another soul. But now, with this stranger, something inside her shifted. Perhaps survival was not only about strength, perhaps it was about trust, about standing with someone when the storm came. Her hand shook as she lifted her blade. She nodded once, sharp and firm. The human gave a faint smile. Though pain carved deep lines in his face, he took position near the wreck. Raising his strange weapon, she crouched low beside him, her body tense like a coiled spring. The hum of the raider engines grew louder. Closer, shadows fell across the broken earth. The enemy was here. Her child peeked out from behind her cloak. Wide-eyed, the mother touched his face gently, then looked at the human. This was madness, this was danger. This was almost certain death. And yet, for the first time in years, she did not feel alone. She felt a bond stronger than fear. A bond that gave her courage. The first raider ship landed with a crash of dust and fire. Figures jumped out, armored, armed, their eyes hungry for blood. They laughed as they spread out, confident in their numbers. The alien mother gripped her blade. The human raised his weapon, two souls from different worlds. Standing together in the ruins, the fight for survival had begun, and neither of them would face it alone. Dust filled the air as the raiders spread out, their boots striking the earth with heavy rhythm. The alien mother's grip tightened on her blade, her eyes sharp and steady. Beside her, the human coughed but stood tall, his strange weapon glowing faintly in his trembling hands. They had no time to plan, no time to speak, only time to fight. The first raider laughed, raising his crude rifle, his eyes locked on the human. With a burst of blue light, the human fired, the weapon buzzing with raw energy. The shot hit the raider's chest, throwing him backward into the dirt. The others paused, surprised, but only for a heartbeat. Then came their shouts, their war cries, their hunger for blood. The alien mother darted forward with speed and grace. Her blade flashed as she cut through the air, meeting the strike of another raider. The clash rang loud, steel against steel. She spun low, knocking him off balance, then drove her blade into his armor's weak point. The raider fell with a cry, his weapon clattering to the ground. Her child hid behind the wreck, small hands covering his ears. His wide eyes peeked through cracks, watching his mother and the human fight. He wanted to cry, but his heart told him to be brave. This was not the first time he had seen danger, but it was the first time his mother was not alone. The human staggered, his wounds slowing him. But his spirit refused to break. He lifted his weapon again, firing bursts of blue light into the raiders who charged. Each shot shook his body, each breath came heavy. Yet his eyes burned with fierce determination. He was not only fighting for himself, he was fighting for them. The raiders snarled, circling closer. One lunged at the human, blade raised high. Before the strike could land, the alien mother leapt. Slashing across the raider's chest, she landed beside the human, her breath ragged, her face set like stone. For a moment, their eyes met. A silent message passed between them. They were no longer strangers, no longer separate. They were warriors side by side. The battle raged like fire, dust sparks, and cries filled the ruined valley. The human's weapon glowed brighter. Though cracks spread along its surface, the alien mother fought with raw strength, her blade striking again and again. Together they moved, not perfect, but in rhythm. When he stumbled, she covered him. When she faltered, he fired to protect her. It was as if they had trained for years, though this was their first fight together. The raiders grew angry, their numbers dwindling. They shouted to one another, planning to surround the pair. But the human noticed, pointing quickly, warning her with a sharp cry. She turned just in time, blocking a blade aimed at her back. The clash rang so loud her arms shook, but she did not fall. Her child's frightened voice echoed in her heart, pushing her forward. The human fell to one knee, coughing blood. A raider charged at him, weapon raised. The alien mother roared, slamming her body into the raider with all her strength. The two crashed into the ground, rolling in the dust. Her blade pressed against his throat. His claws raking across her arm, pain burned her flesh. But she did not let go with a final cry. She drove the blade deep, ending him. She rose, blood dripping down her arm, her chest heaving. The human reached for her, his hand steady though his body shook. She met his hand for a heartbeat, and then turned back to the fight. There was no time to rest, not yet. Two more raiders charged, but this time, they fought together as one. The human fired, forcing one raider back. The alien mother struck the other, her blade flashing with speed. They moved like storm and thunder, like flame and steel. Every strike, every shot, every cry echoed across the ruins, and slowly, one by one, the raiders began to fall. When the last raider collapsed into the dirt, silence spread. The valley trembled with the echoes of battle, then grew still. The alien mother stood tall, blood dripping, sweat burning her eyes. The human leaned against the wreck, his weapon cracked and smoking. They were both shaking, both broken, but both alive. Her child ran from his hiding place, tears streaking his small face. He threw his arms around his mother, clinging tight. Then, to her surprise, he ran to the human. Hugging him too, the human gasped softly, his hand resting weakly on the child's head. For the first time since the crash, he let out a true smile, faint but real. The alien mother watched, her heart heavy but also lighter than before. This was madness, she thought, to trust a human, to fight beside him. And yet without him, they would both be dead without him. Her child would have no tomorrow. She could not deny it any longer. This human was no enemy, no stranger. He was something else, something she had not felt in years. He was an ally. The sun dipped low, painting the ruins red once more. The mother, the child, and the human stood together, surrounded by fallen raiders. The air was thick with smoke and silence, but also with something new. The bond they forged in battle was stronger than fear, stronger than pain, stronger than the walls she had built around her heart. The alien mother knew the fight was not over. More enemies would come, more storms would rise, but now, for the first time in a long time, she did not feel alone, and she would never let go of that. The night after the battle was heavy with silence. The bodies of the raiders lay scattered across the valley, their weapons broken, their voices gone. The alien mother dragged what she could into the shadows, covering the evidence of their fight. Her arm burned from the deep cut she had taken, but she ignored the pain. Her child followed quietly, his small eyes wide with questions, and the human, weak and pale, sat against the wreck of his ship, breathing hard but alive. When the work was done, she returned to him. The fire they built was small, hidden, but enough to chase the cold away. The human sat close to it. Holding a small device in his hands, it blinked faintly, broken, as if it had once been a light to guide him home. He tapped it gently, his face sad, whispering words she could not understand. Then he lowered it and reached into his torn suit. Pulling out something else, it was a thin piece of glass, cracked but glowing faintly with images. The alien mother tilted her head, watching as he pressed it to life. The screen flickered, showing pictures, moving shadows of people. She leaned closer, and her breath caught in her throat. The images were of humans, smiling, laughing, standing together. There was a woman with kind eyes, children playing in the grass, men raising their hands in joy. The human touched the glass gently, his finger tracing one of the faces. His voice broke as he whispered a word. Family. She did not know the word, but she understood the feeling. It was the same ache she carried when she remembered her lost partner, the same longing she felt each night when her child asked why they were alone. Her chest tightened, her heart heavy but also soft. For the first time, she saw him not only as a stranger or a fighter, she saw him as a soul who had lost everything, just like her. Her child crawled closer, pointing at the glowing glass. He laughed softly, amazed by the colors. The human smiled faintly, turning the device so the child could see. He spoke gently, explaining in his strange language. Though the words were foreign, the kindness in his tone was clear. The child repeated one of the words he heard, clumsy but eager. The human chuckled, nodding, teaching him again. The alien mother's heart trembled. Her son had never known a world beyond survival. And now here he was, learning, smiling, connecting. Later, when the fire burned low, the human noticed her wound. He reached into his bag and pulled out a small kit. Filled with strange tools, he motioned for her to sit. Pointing to her arm, she hesitated, suspicion flashing in her eyes. Trusting him with her life was dangerous, foolish even. But the pain throbbed, and the look in his eyes was not commanding but offering. Slowly, she extended her arm, ready to strike if he betrayed her. Instead, he worked with gentle care, cleaning the cut, wrapping it in smooth white cloth. She winced at the sting, but he whispered calm words. His hands shook, not from cruelty but from exhaustion, and when he finished, he gave a small nod as if to say, "You are safe." The alien mother looked at him for a long moment. Her walls of fear, built high over years of loss, began to crack. She still did not know his world, his purpose, or his fate. But she knew his kindness, his courage, his will to survive, and in that, she found a reflection of herself as the stars filled the sky. Her child fell asleep beside the fire. The human leaned back, staring upward, his eyes lost in the endless dark. He raised his hand toward the stars, whispering again that same word. Home. She followed his gaze for years. The stars had only been reminders of enemies, of endless cold space, but now for the first time, they looked different. They looked like doors, like paths to something more. Her heart stirred with a dangerous feeling. Hope that her child might grow in a world better than this. Hope that this human, broken but brave, might lead them to something new. She tried to push it away, whispering to herself that hope was a lie. But the firelight on his face, the steady breath of her child, and the silence of the night told her otherwise. The human turned his head and looked at her. No words passed between them, but their eyes spoke clearly. They were no longer just survivors standing near each other. They were connected, tied by battle, by pain, and by the fragile threads of trust. The alien mother reached for her child. Pulling him close, she whispered a promise, not only to him but to herself, that she would fight for a future, not just for survival, that she would not let fear steal the last chance they had. The human closed his eyes, drifting into uneasy sleep. The alien mother remained awake, staring at the stars, Her heart beat with fear of what lay ahead. But hidden beneath that fear was something stronger. A flame rising again after years of darkness. A flame that whispered of new beginnings, a flame called hope. The days after the raid passed in uneasy silence. The alien mother watched the horizon with sharp eyes. Knowing more danger would come, raiders never gave up. They returned in greater numbers. Hungry for revenge, the human knew it too. His gaze often fixed on the distance. His weapon always near. They were alive, yes. But survival was only borrowed time, and borrowed time always ran out. Her child, however, carried no such weight. He laughed with the human, learning small words in his strange tongue. He pointed at things, the sky, the fire, the earth, and the human patiently repeated their names. The boy's laughter filled the broken valley with a sound the mother had not heard in years. For her child, this was not war, it was discovery. For her child, this human was not a soldier, but a teacher. She wanted to hold on to that joy. But her heart whispered of storms ahead. One evening, as the sun bled red across the horizon, the human worked on his ship. He tried to repair it with trembling hands, connecting wires, adjusting broken panels, but the ship was too damaged, too far gone. The mother watched him from the shadows. She saw the way his eyes lingered on the stars, the way his lips moved softly with the word home. He longed to return, to leave this broken world behind, and she wondered if he would go if he could. If he would leave her and her child to the ruins. The thought cut her like a blade. That night the sky thundered again, but this time it was not a falling star. It was ships dark and cruel descending with fire. The raiders had returned more than before, their engines shaking the valley. Her child screamed, clutching her cloak. The human lifted his cracked weapon, though his hands shook from weakness. They both knew this battle would be different. This time the storm might not leave survivors. The mother pulled her child close, her voice trembling with a promise. She swore she would protect him no matter what. But deep inside, she knew the truth. If she fought alone, she would die, and so would he. Her eyes turned to the human. Standing tall despite his wounds, he looked back at her, his expression calm. Though his body trembled, he pointed to himself. Then to her, then to the child. The message was the same as before, but stronger now. We fight together, or we die together. The raiders landed with thunder, their laughter shaking the night. The alien mother raised her blade, her teeth clenched. The human lifted his weapon, his face lit by the glow of fire. The battle began with chaos. Explosions tore the ground. Shadows leapt across the ruins. The human fired again and again, each shot burning bright. The mother cut through enemies with speed and fury. But for every raider that fell, two more came. They were surrounded. The end closing in like a noose. Her blade slipped from her hand. Her body aching, her wounds burning, she staggered, nearly falling. The human rushed forward, pulling her back, shielding her with his body. A raider's strike landed across his side, and he cried out in pain. Still, he did not let her fall. Still he stood. His blood staining the dust, he turned to her, his hand reaching out. In the chaos of battle, in the roar of fire, he offered her his hand. For a heartbeat, the world slowed. She stared at that hand, trembling, bloody but steady. It was the hand of a stranger, a human, one she should never have trusted. And yet it was also the hand that had fought beside her, the hand that had saved her child, the hand that had carried hope into her heart again. Her child cried behind her, his voice breaking with fear. The mother's eyes filled with tears. She knew this choice would decide everything. With a cry, she reached out, her fingers locking with his. In that instant, fear melted into something stronger. Together they turned, standing side by side. She lifted her blade once more, and he raised his weapon. They fought not as strangers, not as enemies, but as one. Every strike, every step, every breath was shared. The bond in their hands gave them strength greater than their wounds. And though the raiders pressed harder, they refused to fall. The battle raged until the night was torn apart with fire. When the dust cleared, silence spread across the valley. The raiders lay broken, their ships burning in the distance. The alien mother leaned against the human, her breath ragged, her body trembling. He too was broken, his weapon cracked, his blood staining the earth. But they were alive, they had survived. Her child ran to them, tears streaming down his small face. He wrapped his arms around them both, clinging tightly. The mother placed her hand on her child's head, then looked at the human. In his eyes, she saw not a stranger, not a legend, not a danger. She saw family. The fire of battle faded, leaving only the stars above. The mother, the child, and the human stood together. They did not know what tomorrow would bring. More enemies, more storms, more struggles, but for the first time, tomorrow did not feel empty. It felt possible, it felt alive. Because sometimes the greatest strength was not found in weapons or power. Sometimes it was found in the courage to reach out, and in the courage to take a hand offered in the dark. The lonely alien mother was no longer alone. She had taken the hand of a human, and together, they would face whatever came next.